Thank you, Lori. Thank you, Heather. I am on the ceiling. Is it, or off the charts? Is everyone off the charts? Yes? I am so happy to be here. And when Reverend Jill said, "Can you come?" I said, "Of course." Her radiance, Reverend Jill, she has been so kind and so thoughtful. And so it's no wonder that everyone here, I'm just experiencing the same type of radiance. So I'm very grateful to be here. I know Star Wars is our theme, and so are you ready to take flight? Yes? Are you ready to buckle up and go to hyperspace? You know, when you have that white light, that you can imagine all that white light that's out there in our universe, and then all that light and lightness, the light side of life, that's inside of us. And so sometimes when I need to remember this, I'll go like this, like if we are in the Star Wars ship and we're ready for hyperspace, we're ready. You ready? I'll remember if I put my arms out and I bring that here, and then from this place I can also extend it out here. How does that sound? So there's vibrancy, there's that sense of energy, there's that sense of love. Heather sang my favorite song about all of the qualities of God and how they're inside of us and showing up in amazing places. And from what I heard is that Luke, he was with Obi-Wan Kenobi. There he was, and they were at a Chinese restaurant. And he was having a little bit of trouble with the chopsticks. And so there was kind of some food on the floor. And what happened was Obi-Wan finally snapped and he said, "Use the forks, Luke." Now, I used to waitress at this Chinese restaurant when I was in college. And they had these wonderful 3 banners that said something like, love, well-being, generosity. And I always said it was no shoes, no shirt, no service. And so I'll remember that there really is a light side of life, because sometimes I take some stuff too heavy. I know I'm the only one who does that, right? So I can kind of think of my spectrum of thoughts and emotions and actions if I'm not having an inspired action like the hyperspace, right? I can think of things in terms of being kind of heavy or kind of light. And so today we're going to explore the light side of life. You ready for that? Yeah? All right, good. We're buckled up. And you know why, I even learned why duct tape is like the Force. Duct tape, it solves all the world's problems. It has a dark side and it has a light side, and it binds the galaxy together. And so we know that we're part of this unified field of consciousness, and there's so many wonderful metaphors and analogies in Star Wars. And so we know that we're made of that same star stuff, and that we can call upon that and draw that out. So not only do we have this part, but we can also draw that out. And Dr. Ernest Holmes, who's the founder of the Science of Mind, which is a guide for spiritual living, he says, God is the indwelling power of my life. As I open myself to the inner vital life and merge myself with its flow, I find myself energized and vitalized. So imagine ourselves hanging out there. And really today is about returning to there, the return of the Jedi. So when Reverend Jill says, "Do you want to speak on Return of the Jedi?" and we have a Star Wars theme, and I said, yeah, I love the wisdom of Yoda and the guidance, and so I kind of see that as divine guidance, how that shows up, and being part of the love intelligence of the universe. And I said, yeah, I love Yoda, and I drive a Toyota, and what if we were to wake up in the morning and think about that mystery of life? There's something that's beyond us. There's something that's within us. There's something that we're a part of that's larger than us. And I think that's one of the themes that's in Star Wars, that we're part of something larger. And so sometimes I need a bigger idea of God. And I'll be thinking of small stuff, or I'll be looking at something that might be heavy, or feeling that, and I need a bigger space. I need a bigger space of grace, a bigger space of peace, of blessings, of that love and well-being and generosity, and so to call upon that generous nature of the universe that really is the truth of who we are. So what do you say that we engage in the practice, this spiritual practice of letting go of limited thinking, letting go of limited feeling, or anything that may diminish us? If I felt any sense of being diminished or less than or not enough, there are ways of being where I can welcome and I can be more open and receptive and welcome this presence and power that is ever available. It is right here and right now. So how do we do this? How do we turn to the goodness that is within ourselves? We know the what. So what about the how? How do we get back to that light side of life? How do we return to that Jedi nature, to that knowingness, to that divine guidance that's within us? You know, and we don't want to miss any of these messages that are in the Star Wars story, because there's so much of it that we're all a part of something larger than ourselves. That people can see, be, and shine their light. That even the best of us can fall, because there's some heroes, and we know we have that hero within in that mythology where we can really get back to that indwelling presence that energizes us and vitalizes us. There's also extraordinary things that can come from unlikely places. We have things that we haven't anticipated that really are appearing in our life as goodness, and that we get to see that and recognize that even more. And then also we get to, you ready for this? Heed a call to be in the mystery. So, from the light side of life, what if we could be in the mystery from this light side of life? So there was a Washington Post article where George Lucas states his intent for the Star Wars series. And he says, I wanted to provide guidance, kind of like Yoda. He wanted to provide guidance within a context of a renewed sense of spirituality and transcendence. Kind of sounds like what we're up to here, right, in this beloved community. A renewed sense of spirituality. So there's that transcendence. You know, we all have conditions, we all have situations in our life that we would like to transcend and move through. And it could be that we have some of that, we have darkness or that heaviness, and then we have lightness. And so the way to remember and return to that Jedi nature that's within us is to move through that and be that presence, that indwelling power of life. And so he also, George Lucas, so our this wonderful spiritual guide of George Lucas, and we have so many teachers in so many places, he says in a Time magazine article that he wanted Star Wars to reflect on the qualities that are within us. He says, I see Star Wars as taking all the issues that religion represents, and I try to distill them in a more modern and easily accessible construct. Okay, so God is always present, and I just need to be accessible. I get to be available. I get to move to this light side. He continues, he says, I put the force into the movie in order to, not the forks, but I put the force into the movie in order to try to awaken a certain kind of spirituality in young people. And I know we're all young at heart, we're all youthful here in this room, and he says more a belief in God than a belief in any particular religious system. So George Lucas wants us to experience that belief in God. And he says this in large part explains, it really explains how we can begin to continue. How do you like that? Begin to ask the questions of the mystery. So we're buckled up. We're in that hyperspace place where we know that the light side is possible, and we're experiencing that grace of that light space. So in large part, it explains that enduring quality of the Star Wars story. It's endearing to our hearts, and it's enduring because it represents mythologies and stories that we can really apply to daily life. So when we're really purposefully engaged, well, I guess that was last month, Star Trek, engage, right? So we're going to engage in the goodness that is within us. So that's the story of the return to the Jedi, that there is that goodness that is within us. And so that goodness, that GODness, is this light side. So what does that consist of? Well, it consists of love. It consists of friendship. It consists of fellowship. Also in the Star Wars series, we experience some non-violence in addition to what may look not like that. So we're going to move more toward the love, the friendships, the non-violence, and, back to that mystery, to the transcendent. So we can all think of a situation in our life that we would like to transcend. Yes? Yes. So, and to be a bit more buoyant. And we'll do that by engaging with that and bringing those spiritual qualities with us, that renewed sense of divine guidance and spirituality. And so for the Force, we can read transcendence. It really goes beyond whatever the situation or condition or that material world is. And that song, God is, those are the qualities that we're bringing with us as we're transcending what may look like an unhealth temporary thing moving through, may look like something with our wealth, may look like a relationship we would like to have transformed, may look like a greater sense of renewal about our own inner peace and our own spiritual practice. And so we bring that out of that dark side. So we'll get in a little bit about Darth Vader, Darth Vader here, about that shadow side, that bringing specifically more God into that and having that Force be with us, as us. And so whether there's some violence we might see in the world, whether there's power struggles, whether there's anger, I always welcome these emotions like anger. Thank you. Whoa, that's information. What if I began to see my emotions and my way of being throughout the day is not good or bad, but it's information. And say thank you. Someone brings me information, and I may just be still in that moment. Oh, thank you. It's an interesting experience, and so that kind of lightens us up, and we can actually see more of the universe rather than that condition. So we can move more toward love and this friendship and be as this Force. And what happens as there's that shadow part of us, which we know that the sun is always shining. Yes? So we know that the sun is always shining, and I may see a shadow, but I really know that the sun is always shining. So that as I embrace all of it, I get to embrace my wholeness. That's what we do here in this teaching, is I get to know that I am, like Dr. Ernest Holmes said, I am that indwelling presence, and I'm vitalized and energized by that, and I embrace that wholeness of all aspects so that I can be more of that light side. That I'm not resisting anything, because that takes a lot of time and energy, or I'm not reacting so much to things that I'm experiencing as heavy or dark. So there's purification that occurs. I love, my friend was on a meal plan, and she says, I'm purifying, I'm cleansing, and so that kind of puts a rest to questions about, well, what kind, and how you doing, and all this kind of stuff. But she said, I'm purifying, I'm cleansing. And I think that is so cool, and it could be that we're cleansing if we have a sense of not enough, or or I'm not creative, or I'm not resourceful, or I'm not feeling that wholeness because I'm too into that range and that spectrum of that shadow side. And so what happened was, because Luke had faith in Darth Vader's wholeness. He had faith that he really was a loving person, and he found out he was his dad. Can you imagine? He found out, and he says, I have faith in you. And so what happened was, Darth Vader was purified and cleansed and realized that he had the goodness inside of him. That he really was able to unmask and realize that he was that goodness and that light. So it's kind of like, okay, if I want to unmask during the day and I can realize that, yes, I am whole, or I can do that hyperspace thing again and bring that to my heart, and then be able to share from that heart-centered space of lightness, I know that we can really choose that light side. And so that's what Star Wars does for me. It probably does other things. Luke's faith goes beyond even just categorizing. He didn't categorize his dad as, you're dark. He didn't put him in a box and label him and say, you're a dark dude. He said that, he didn't even, say it's a good choice or a bad choice. It's a bad choice that you were good one time. Think about our parenting, or think about being parented. No, did anyone been parented? He was able to see the light of love and have some forgiveness, a sense of giving forth in that transcending way. He was able to give him an opportunity to transcend and experience that light of love and forgiveness within himself. And so Luke amplifies his faith. Wouldn't it be great? There's our invitation. Hey, we get to amplify our faith. Even to the point of risking his life to spare Vader. And Darth Vader's transformation was really spurred on because of Luke's faith. And so Vader's diminishing of his darkness came in that realization of light. So there was transcendence. So there was Vader was a long-standing antagonist. And none of us have antagonists in our lives, do we? I'd rather be a protagonist. Some people who are antagonizing, I would rather be a protagonist, like proactive. I'd rather be a protagonist. And, sometimes I have those qualities. If I might be a little bit agitated or irritated in a situation. So at that level of condition, then what I get to do is to kick it upstairs. And we can all think of an area in our life that we would like to have transformed. Yes? You want to just close your eyes for a second and think of an area that you would like to have transformed. So it could be in the area of relationship with my own inner peace. It could be in an area with a relationship. It could be in the area of finance. It could be in an area of wellness. Just think of an area that you'd like to have transformed. Good, that's right. So when you can think about bringing it to light, that light side of life, knowing that we are well equipped, that we have the capabilities, that things are possible. Oh, it's possible. I'm capable and I deserve the very best. I deserve to have the transcendence. I deserve to be in that place of lightness and goodness. That goodness within that was experienced by these heroes in the Star Wars story. So we've set that intent, and my guess is the same person who walked in the door may not even be the same person who walks out of the door. You've set that intent that, yes, I know there's possibility. I know that I can live to that full potential. I know that I can experience that transcendence and that fullness of light. And so what we get to do is we get to be open and receptive and welcome. Welcome that shift. Not that other thing, but we get to welcome the shift. And so the global vision of the Centers for Spiritual Living says, we see our communities as being open, receptive, and welcoming for all people, all faiths, and all paths to God. And so when Luke amplified his faith, he realized it was never too late. And he believed that there was goodness and that there was light. And Vader realized that, yes, there is goodness inside of myself, inside of my heart. And so when he realized his true self is goodness, then he was transformed. He got back. Oh, he returned as that Jedi that he really was. Anakin Skywalker was who he was. And so similarly, Luke also undergoes a transformation. He chose not to be violent. He moved toward nonviolence. He had a choice. He had a chance to do damage, and instead he chose to offer his faith. And so what happened was he then became liberated. He became free. He didn't get stuck in the anger or the hate that seemed to be that shadow, but he used that information and says, I am faithful. I can co-create a new reality and experience, reality with that capital R. So there's that spiritual path of nonviolence. And so he turned to the goodness that is within himself. So we can really bring whatever situation it is to our mind and our heart. Now, I received a text on my way here, and it was from one of the practitioners of where I've been of service, and it was so sweet because we were of service to this beautiful, beautiful lady who, we don't know if it was true or not, but she had a really hard situation, and it was real to her, and it was a hard time for this person, and they felt that someone was taking advantage of them, and they felt that their resources had gone away, whether it was resources of people, resources of enough money to go around, enough health within themselves to deal with what was going on. And it was a very hard time. And so what we were able to do was to engage and empower this person to find what resources they needed. And so this is pretty amazing that to receive this person now has wonderful things that are happening, and they're connected. They're connected with all that they need. And so at that time, there was some things that looked like shame, like Brene Brown talks about, that there wasn't that sense of worthiness that has an identity. Much like the story in Star Wars, there's a lot of people who have different identities of that, which is maybe feeling less than or not enough. And then to have this person take a look at what that fear was, and so that could be that false evidence appearing real. It could also be forget everything and run. But instead of this person running, we were able to sit down and have a conversation. So that acronym for fear became face everything and rise. And so this person was able to transcend. And it's just so heartwarming to know that out of the love and forgiveness, much like Luke had for the goodness that was within, for his father, that this person was able to transcend and rise and experience a lighter side of life. So now this person has a great home, is surrounded by loving people, companions that she has in her life. Also, she has good health care and some work that she's enjoying. She's passionate and purposeful about. So I know that was an amazing thing that happened. So what we knew was that she was part of a larger part of this universe. It was part of something larger. And so maybe like Luke Skywalker was a catalyst for Darth Vader's transformation. I don't know. There's so many heroes. Princess Leia, was leading, even with that hairdo. She was leading. She's an amazing leader. A lot of accomplishments, if you think about this. Also, Obi-Wan Kenobi. He gave the galaxy a chance at peace. And he also stayed of consult to support people as that image of the presence that he was. And so, in truth, all these characters were a part of something larger than themselves. And even Yoda says, when he was training Luke, he says, do or do not do not try. But he says, do or do not. So you either are engaged fully in being that light and transcendence. You know who tries to be a Jedi? Obi-Wannabe. And do you know what you call a Jedi in denial? Obi-Wan cannot be. So what I know is that there's symbologies of light, and that light that's available. There's the lightsabers that you can see it, and they can bring that. They can bring that to the dark places. Also, we can know too that as the heroes were rising up in this movie, that there were some, even some more villains that were more menacing than Darth Vader. Even though Darth Vader, he destroyed planets, he destroyed people's, lives and that sort of thing, he was allowing that fear and that anger to lead him to the dark side. But in the same way, I know that we're all susceptible to that possibility. So instead of having our focus or turning that attention, do you know why Anakin Skywalker crossed the road? To get to the dark side. Do you know why Luke Skywalker crossed the road? To get to the light side, right? So Ernest Holmes says that the thing to do is not to try to unify people, but to unify with the principle of life that's behind all things and all people and all things. And I had a situation. I had a situation where there was a real sense of whether it was a shade of maybe betrayal or rejection, or this situation that was really hard, and there was a lot of caring and a lot of energy that needed a lot of compassion, a lot of empathy, and it looked pretty messy. And so when things, you're giving birth to things, it looks like, or healing. Anyone ever heal? I mean, it looks pretty messy sometimes. And what I needed to continue to remember is to unify with that principle of light, to unify with that principle of love and friendship and forgiveness, to unify with that sense of transcendence. Because if I paid attention to the humma, then that's where I would be resonating with. So the other thing we can know too in the Star Wars story is that extraordinary things can come from unlikely places. We know that as we're anticipating the goodness in our life, it may show up in different ways. It may show up in ways we haven't anticipated, and again, to be open and receptive and to welcome that change. Open and receptive and to welcome that change. So I know that God has a way of transforming ordinary things into exceptional and extraordinary things as we're heeding the call to be in the mystery. So we can have this call to mystery, and we get to answer. You ready to answer? Yep. So the important and enduring themes in Star Wars, they really appeal to our deepest selves. Did you get to go deep today? If you think about that universe, that universal life force, may the force be with you. If you think about that universal life force, it really is deep and profound. It's ever available, it's everywhere present, and I know that beyond whatever is appearing in our life, that there is that sense of transcendence as being accessible and available, and to know that, and to make ourselves accessible and available to this presence and shine our light. So there is goodness and GODness and transcendence. And you ready to do an affirmation with me too? Yes? It's like a take-home. This is your take-home. And so again, you can keep this close to your heart and say, with me if you will, I open my heart and embrace the divinity of each person I meet. I am open, receptive, and welcoming. So what we get to do is to continue to contemplate and really live life more authentically from the goodness, the light side of life, the lightness of who we are. And so I know what we do is we go beyond ourselves. We realize that whatever choices appear for us, if we've felt compromised in whatever area of our identity, we may have felt diminished or limited or compromised, that we can really bring our true self forward, that we can know the true qualities of spirit that are within us. And we have this loving, beloved community really to transcend with. So I know that we're absolutely lifted. So would you like to be lifted and join me in this moment of inner celebration? Yes. So saying yes to this universal knowingness, knowing that spirit is everywhere present. It is the divine source. It is that which is everywhere. It is in, through, as, and all around everyone and in everything. It is the love intelligence. It is the divine guidance. Knowing that the divine source is all. There is love. There is peace. There is that which is the celebration within the heart of hearts, within the universe, knowing that there is this universal essence, this force that is always with us. It is that which is all-pervading and permeating. It is that which I am immersed in this unified field of love, of peace, of consciousness, knowing that it is spirit awakening itself as true magnificence. And I know that I am living this life in the fullness of the realization of who I am, and that I bring forth these gifts and strengths filled with compassion and empathy and peacefulness, knowing that yes, there is enough. There is enough of that light that is within my heart that I can share and care and be there. So as I show up, I know that there is beautiful well-being and health. There is grace-filled love. There is that which is the extended hand, the extended heart, that which is the harmonizing presence, the power that is ever available and making itself known in even unanticipated ways. And I know that there is an expectancy of only the highest and the best that is happening for each and every one of us. So being a part of something larger, I know that the universe fills this space, and it is a space of grace, of love, of peace, of joy. So there is that which is the harmonizing presence and power that is ever available that I'm grateful for, and it is the gratitude expressing as me in the deepest appreciation. And I release this word into the action of the law, knowing that it is done, it is complete, it is beautiful, it is whole. So knowing all is well, and so be it.